First of all, hi everyone. Thank you so much for being here on a Friday afternoon. I'm not a practitioner expert in AI. I've just deal with tech up close and personal in so many different sectors, and it's just so interesting to see how every sector is affected by it. Very few things is so much affected by one single subject matter, and everyone's obsessed with this, and that's technology and AI. So thank you so much for the introduction. So my think tank, which we co-founded when Grab, the company I still work with, went public in 2021. Has anyone been to Singapore here? Yeah, so Grab is present in 8 countries in Southeast Asia, headquartered in Singapore, so we're like a DoorDash, PayPal, Uber, all in one in the region. And in 2021, when Grab went public on NASDAQ, we also co-founded a think tank called Tech for Good Institute, which is what I am currently the chairperson for. And what we want to do is to bring together private and public sector in Southeast Asia, and think about how do we use technology for the better of society. And we realize it's such a difficult thing to do unless we all sit on the table together. So that's what my main job is, chairing this think tank. And looking at technology in that part of the world where there's double the population as that in the US, we have over 600 million people there, and a lot of them don't even have bank accounts in countries like Indonesia or Philippines. And so when we started our business, Grab's business, to let people drive the Uber around, we actually have to open bank accounts for drivers there. And that's when we realized people actually don't even get credit. Like what we take for granted here, like credit cards, and being able to advance to have pay for a house in advance, things like that are actually luxury there. So we realize actually many technology in that way shapes people's future there. If someone can have a proxy credit, so for example, if they drive a motorcycle for us and bring around passengers and there's a record of them being paid, they can then use that to open a bank account, and after a while, if they have good credit, they can borrow money to open a chicken farm, which is what one of our drivers did, and then they can eventually send their daughters to college, etc. So one area where technology is having a huge impact there is literally just on everyday human flourishing, basic needs being met in the developing countries in Asia. Now, then you jump over to Singapore, where there's crazy rich Asians there. We always laugh, like in that region, you have the crazy rich Asians and you have the slumdog millionaires, and they're within 2 hours of plane ride to each other. And you go to Singapore, technology takes a different face. So some people there who want to drive with us or deliver with us need technology interface. People who cannot hear or cannot speak, we make sure that natural language processing, NLP, which is a very popular now AI application, huge in making things work, we can use that to create a more seamless experience for people who are passengers when there's direct translation immediately. And now then they can also get access to credit, to income, and to opportunities. And that's just kind of the basic part in one of the arenas. For me, I recently joined Stanford's US-China Advisory Council. Stanford has a center in the middle of Peking University, which is where a lot of China's government officials come from. It's their equivalent of Harvard. And last year when I went to China, I realized technology looks different there on how it impacts people. There, they care about whether their elites are working on a military tech that might threaten the other country or not. Or they're worried about their talent, whether they're staying in Yale or staying in MIT if someone went to school there, and whether they're going to come back to China instead and contribute to China's development as opposed to US development. Then I realized actually the way technology is impacting society there is a lot more personal in the geopolitical way, and we have to look at how to be diplomatic about that. And maybe I'll just stop with the final part that I am the most excited is I'm an advisor to an education tech fund called OWL Ventures, OWL, and they're the world's largest currently in education tech. And that is just boundless in terms of the impact they can offer to people, to democratize education. So one of our portfolio companies operates in tier 3 villages in China, for example, and the material that is as advanced as what you can learn from at Phillips Academy, Andover here, you can just have a projector and project it on the wall of a warehouse, and someone in a tier 3 village in China can learn the same material. And I think when people democratize education through technology, you basically go beyond the boundaries of geography and language. And now with AI allowing simultaneous translation in a very high quality way, it's boundless if the practitioners actually reach the right people. So I'll just stop there. I mean, there's just so many ways technology is changing people's lives, and for good too.
Well, as you talk about that, you're kind of known, you do all of these talks around the world on how AI affects the civil society. So what's the most exciting thing about it, and what's the most thing that will make you worried about it? Because I want to know the worried side too. But what are you most excited about these advancements, and what are you scared about?
It's like the perfect follow-up. The most exciting thing is the barriers to entry is more and more removed. So if you're a very talented creator, or you're someone who has the content and substance, but you don't know the right people, you weren't born into the right family, you didn't go to an Ivy League school, the barriers are still there, but with the democratization that's created by technology, you can now have access. I mean, one of the things that I don't get the influencer community, because I am not an influencer, but I am always amazed at how quick someone can be well known and earn their own money just by creating the right post and posting the right pictures and saying the right tagline, right? That's one example of, you can be creative, and if people resonate with what you're putting it out there, you can be successful quickly and you can earn. One of the things stories I love is I see in Indonesia, where it is a Muslim country, and women there, some women without permission from their husbands are not allowed to come out in society and do a lot of things that we take for granted in the West. But there were, a lot of these online commerce platforms that allow some of these ladies to sell the soap that they made or food that they made online without violating these social rules, and they also can earn. They also can create a new way of life for themselves, and that's another example. Those things excite me a lot. One of the guys who's really famous, he produced Avatar through his AI app, and now he's has a company called Stability AI, which creates modeling. James Cameron is on his board. And one of the things that they talked about in a recent Saudi Arabia conference is that now if you're an actor, instead of doing 67 takes to get that perfect teardrop moment, you can just do one take, and the AI model can enhance and perfect it for you. What do you save? Time.
And money.
And money, but it's this commodity, time, that you will not get back. Technology done right can save everybody years of our lives doing mundane things that we now presume that it's normal to do, but then it can, and imagine when you free up all that time, and if you use it wisely, how precious it is, right? That's what excites me about AI. But the other side of it is all the ugly things in the world. Actually, technology is pretty neutral, by the way. AI is neutral. It's the human behind it that decides whether it becomes positive or negative, right?
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know
I mean,
that.
back in the Stone Ages, I'm sure people still gossip and say malicious things about each other and create bad drama. Now we just do it with tech, with AI, with deep fakes, with online bullying and all that, and we do it in an amplified and scaled way. But it's the person behind that decision that defines what is the outcome, right? So people these days also hide behind the screens, so you actually don't see the perpetrators who do things that they're not supposed to do. I think that's an area where practitioners need to be more, and law enforcement need to be much more vigilant on cybersecurity and fraud. But at the end of the day, what worries me is just that it's the same thing. It's human nature. And it's what human nature can do when there's an amplified, scalable way for things to happen in a much quicker manner. I encourage anyone who hasn't to listen to this podcast called Scam.Inc. It's by The Economist. And it talks about how there's a big fraud operations in Myanmar and Southeast Asia right now that targets rich Americans, middle-class Americans, and bankrupt people of their life savings because they pretend to be someone that doesn't exist on the other side of the internet, pretends to be someone who wants to date you, talk to you, then they will lure you into investing into a crypto product or an investment product that will help you double your net worth, and you think that person's your friend because they're trained to say the right things that will tick you, that makes you think that they care about you, and the next thing you know, a bank in Kansas City was bankrupted 2 years ago, and the CEO is now in jail because millions and millions were being wired out that way. why do I say that is because this is also not new. Someone trying to scam you because you're rich. But now there are many sophisticated ways to do that. And if we're not thinking every day with sharpness, with intuition, then we will not be able to defend ourselves when these things happen. It used to be much more obvious when someone's trying to target you. But now they come in many, many different hidden ways because of technology, AI, all these things that can help mask the person and perpetrator behind these crimes.
So, Ilaria, how do you protect yourself then?
I'm still trying to figure it out, but I'm trying to educate myself more. And I think one of the most important things that I'm sure is the answer to all your questions about AI is we all need to connect with other human beings way more than before now in this age of AI proliferation, because it's only in talking to real people, understanding what's really happening out there in the world, do we know of these stories, do we know of what people are thinking, then we can be a smarter person to use technology. It is dangerous if all we do is surf online and read the news that's being prompted to us. If I don't interact with anybody and all I do is on my phone, I'll be buying 100 pairs of shoes every day because Instagram knows how to target me, and that would be all I look at, and I would think that's normal, right? But we all need to be smarter about preventing ourselves from ourselves.
Educate ourselves and be smarter. What skills will be most valuable in this AI-driven workforce?
Yeah, so I know everybody worries about their jobs being taken
Yes.
away. And then in the previous age of technological advancement, it's more blue-collar manual labor work in manufacturing, for example, that were being taken away. But actually, this wave of AI advancement is more white-collar work. I started my career at Goldman Sachs, and as an analyst, you basically have to crunch numbers. You just have this Excel model that you put in different numbers, move the dot. I mean, all you do all day is wait for your senior to tell you, you need to move that dot, that comma, you have to move that number. You try to find 15 other companies and try to punch in the same number. So actually, it's a very mundane job that they overpay Wall Street analysts to do. And frankly, you shouldn't, those jobs shouldn't exist for this long and be paid that much. This is the best known secret that's now being put online. Now, as voice AI starts to advance and take shape, you can just tell someone, find me 20 comps of the largest telecom companies out there. 30 seconds, all out. 2 days ago, I was talking to my husband. I was like, let's try to get this app to create a prototype of an app for me when we just tell them what to do. So my husband says, I want to work out more, create an app and an interface that helps me work out more. Immediately, it creates this, it's just like you download an app and it will tell you, today you're not working out enough, this is what you need to do, this is the amount of calories you need, this is how you input it, and this is how I measure it, and it all generates itself after we talked 3 sentences into the mic. And after less than a minute, it created that prototype. I already forgot about your question. What was the question?
What skills are the most valuable?
There you go. See? This proves, actually, my brain is very limited, too. And these AI apps help you articulate things, and anything that repeats itself requires a lot of data analysis, requires a lot of precision, and are low stake. They're fantastic. But what they still cannot do are all the things that are stored in my brain that I haven't used yet. For example, all the relationships, friendships that I've had the past 40 years of my life. Every conversation, meaningful conversation I've had with people I've met about their life story that I've learned a lesson from, and every country I've lived in, the things I've seen, the culture, what are people's history, how does that project to the future? All these things that are stored in my brain that sometimes is really dormant unless there's a moment that activates it, those things AI does not have. And those are the skill set, as fuzzy as it sounds, that are so important. I'll give you an example. These days, politics is a mess. When we go and president to president, prime minister have a conversation, do you think AI can just generate a diplomatic meeting to define whether a war continues or not and hundreds of billions of dollars should still be deployed or not? No, right? It's a human being with another human being. It's my way of communicating with you. It's my perception of your agenda and your perception of my agenda, and then our way of articulating it so that we can persuade you to go with my agenda. What I just said there requires years of just complex IQ, EQ, and communication skills and context that defines actually the lives of millions of people just with that conversation between two diplomats and two politicians. That's area of politics. And that's just one area I realize that the more we have AI to help us with the repetitive tasks that are mundane, the more we need to get better at the high-level skills, which is understanding human, doing things that are difficult, understanding context, predicting what will happen in the future by those contexts, understanding what motivates different people so that when you have enough information, that AI helps you prepare and the right graphs in Excel to prove your case and have that presentation, you are persuading them with your ability to appeal to their destiny and their agenda. Those things require complex and very conscientious understanding and mature understanding of other human beings. And I think we might have all become a bit lazy in honing those skills now with so much distraction. I think we should all try to just put down a device and talk more with other people so we can get better at those intangible skills.
Okay, so this is just random, but I had a conversation with my brother the other day, and he's an engineer. He's in his late 40s, and he says to me, his buddy at Stanford, professor at Stanford this year to the new class in the School of Engineering, asked 300 students, raise your hand if you know how to use, like what he knew, I forget what the name of his, but everyone knows how to code in it. Whatever the biggest coding program is that you learn to code if you went to school back 20 years ago. And 2 kids raised their hand of the 300 kids. Then the professor asked, how many people know to use AI cursor to code? And every single kid raised their hand in that class. And what's interesting is now you have to hire kids or young adults that know actually how to use AI to code, but they actually don't know how to code themselves.
But that's the beauty of AI, is you don't need to do the coding now. Now, even 5 years ago, that's the hottest major in universities. Right, yep. It's computer science, and you have to learn to code, and that would directly translate to a $500,000 a year salary when you're a software engineer after graduation kind of thing. Now you just talk to the app, to talk to the AI system, and they will actually code for you. They will actually create and edit. There's a lot of code editing software that is very helpful. I'm not saying that and being a software engineer is no longer needed. You still need really good coders, but there's a new thing these days called reinforced learning with human feedback. It's a system where people hire really good human professionals to fact check and train the AI models. So I know that people worry that journalists will be disrupted. I would say, with the age of AI, if you're a mediocre journalist who just regurgitates and copies, you may be disrupted. But if you are a top-notch journalist who is always talking to people, thinking, having insightful feedback and insightful stories, and you see things and you describe things a way that other people cannot do, you will actually be very valuable, because you will also need to be hired to train these AI systems to understand their surroundings and their context. AI will not alone operate just on data that they can scrape on the internet. They need human teaching, human reinforcement to check. And because these are high-stake jobs, I think we need to take away this is what is low-stake and high-stake. If it's a high-stake job, humans will always be needed, but you have to be top of your game. You cannot be pushing paper around and be mediocre. AI and computers will help with operations, right, with medical field. But are you gonna just let a robot cut open your brain? At least right now, I don't think anyone's comfortable doing that. But if I tell you a top brain surgeon coupled with a top technology to help him see his blind spots will together operate on you to ensure that there's minimal error, then we probably will say yes. So at this stage, I would say all of us, we gotta up our game. Even in areas that we feel complacent about, we do need to up our game so that we learn how to use AI to help us get better at what we're doing. And a lot of education tech firms out there are creating upskilling apps or upskilling programs online that you can take courses online. You can access it from your home to learn these new things so that you can know how to use AI yourself.
Do you think there's industries right now that AI will struggle with to replace entirely? Like, what industry should you be looking at that you think you're safe from because AI won't come into it?
So this is the exact conversation I had with a good friend of mine last weekend.
This is just because I'm curious.
Yeah, we talked about this. So this friend of mine is one of the earliest Silicon Valley successful venture capitalists who discovered Facebook and then Spotify, Twitter, etc. So I actually asked him this question, and he said, we think that leisure and travel will be quite hard to replace because even with all this AI stuff, you would still want to go with your loved ones to Spain and to Hawaii to have a beach holiday, take your kids to Disneyland. That kind of stuff can't really be replaced. You still want to eat good food. You want to talk to the guys who grew that beautiful heirloom tomato or, farm the beautiful Wagyu beef that you want them to cook a certain way, and you want to experience the leisure. And actually, the more free time that we free up, which is what AI and technology is doing, it frees up more and more constraints of our time to give us convenience. Where does all that free time go? Are we just going to sit around and twiddle our thumb? No, we want to do things that we enjoy. So actually, leisure, travel, music, there's a reason why Taylor Swift concerts were all sold out. People can listen easily to her music at home on Spotify or on YouTube, but they want to be in the room and the arena where they experience music with other people because that has a spiritual experience for a lot of people. Those things will be harder to get disrupted.
Well, and I would also say publishing with authors, that's the business I'm in, from the side of when you're writing a book, it's your story, it's your ideas. AI can't really replace your story. You own your own story.
I mean, what are you seeing, Esther? I mean, your whole publishing field, people are worried too about being obsolete, right? Reading books, but I don't feel like people are ready to give up reading books yet. It's such an important part of our lives.
Yeah, that's great. I think in publishing, what's happening is when people are using AI to write a book, let's say, you can tell that it's AI generated. It's not actually your own content. So what we really encourage authors is write your own words, tell your own story. You can use AI to help on research or different things, but you really still have to check it because AI is actually not entirely accurate when you're researching, give me the cliff notes of this book. It could be actually wrong, what you're reading, because it's not perfect. And so it's harder for the author because then they have to go and research and actually read that whole entire book if they're going to quote it in their book. But I think people's stories, I think that's the most unique thing about in the publishing industry is it's their thoughts, it's what they've experienced working in the workforce or building a business or raising a family or parenting their kids. It's their own personal experience and what they've learned. So I do know a lot of people ask me this question, and I'm asking you because you're the professional here, is what ethical concerns should professionals consider when working with AI tools? Because I think there's ethical stuff in there. So what should we be considering as professionals working with AI tools? Is there anything?
I think that I glossed over it a little bit just now with a scam with fraud. Fraud is a huge thing because these days people can easily create websites that look legitimate just like a bank website. So for example, back to the story just now, how did people scam these educated Americans to wire millions into this random bank account? It's because they actually created an identical website that looks like a cryptocurrency exchange. And because emotionally they knew how to manipulate their target, they say, hey, actually, if you put some money in there, you can immediately make double. And that fake website created that effect. So if I wired $20 to that website, somehow they can make it look like it becomes $40 the next day because of a crypto trade. And all of that is fake. So the $20 is not being wired into a legitimate exchange. It was a made-up exchange. But technology these days are able to create something that looks just like that. And if we're not asking those questions while this is happening, we would easily fall victim to people who are sitting there waiting to prance on us with a well thought out scheme. So I would say that's why
I would fall for that scheme, by the way.
I would
in
for
a second.
sure. I would for sure. But this is the thing, right? Like we need to learn about these things by talking to people. If we talk to 15 people, one of them probably will tell you, by the way, have you heard that podcast called Scam.Inc. on Economist? And if you just hear a little bit about that story, if someone reaches out to you on Facebook chat, Esther, and says, hey, you want to chat today? And then, 3 hours later asks you to wire money into a crypto account, a bell will ring, right?
Or go to Target and buy a $500 gift card.
Or anything. They will know. I guess, so that's the top thing. Cybersecurity, be very educated, learn about, you can even Google it. What are the top scams out there? How can I prevent myself? What are ways that people easily can get conned? But more than that, if you're a practitioner, if you are a merchant, if you're someone who has power over technology companies, at each point of building your company, there has to be guardrails. You have to protect the people who are vulnerable. One example is when we were building our app in Southeast Asia on mobility, etc., we held tech education workshops for the elderly, for people who are born in a generation, maybe the boomers generation too, that did not use tech in that way. And we tell them what is to be expected when you use an app like that, what isn't. And you shouldn't just press a button and just wire money when someone pings you and says you owe someone money. That's a very prominent fraud feature here, by the way. I get texts all the time saying I forgot to pay the toll. And it's a very popular scam. This is a very education-based thing. Another part is, do you have enough people who are, that a lot of it, government has to do that too, is to check on what people are doing. That's why people from Facebook and all these big companies, TikTok, are being brought into the Congress. They actually have to be accountable if they have the power to reach so many people. So ethical concerns are no different than before the age of AI explosion. We just have to be more vigilant to know that now people can hide behind the computer. So it will not be someone with a gun point to your head saying, give me your money. It is actually someone posing as your friend online, and you have to make sure that you check, is that a real person, and is there something malicious behind there?
Okay, well, going more on that, like we're in this unprecedented growth of AI. We're living in this age. How do we bulletproof ourselves? Because that's the big question that everyone's asking is, how do we bulletproof ourselves right now?
In what way?
That we can still have jobs, like we're talking about, that we could be ethical using AI.
Yeah.
We can still build real communities.
Yeah. I think that if you want to keep your careers and thrive in your careers, there are two things that I'm positive that AI cannot contest you on. Number one is you got to be a very interesting person, have interesting things to say, be interested in people, have world experiences, have hobbies, and create things that are great. And when you meet someone who is interesting, a computer cannot replace you. The stories that you have and the value that you add to something. And then to follow up from that, to be trustworthy, that takes time. But I will definitely do a deal or invest in someone that I can trust time over time again. And computers cannot contest you on being a trustworthy person, which is why, for example, these days, even though with all this technology, the top bankers, why do they make so much money? Is because they own the relationships with the investors and with the companies that they invest in. And when you trust someone to bring you to a good deal, even before the results come, you're willing to put your money on it. It's because of your trust in whether it's that company or that banker, right? I trust in, this is an alternative example, but one of my friends is now the chief communications officer for Prince Harry and Meghan. And I thought to myself, will roles like that ever be disrupted? You know, being a chief communications representative for someone. And I realized too, I don't think so. It's because it's about people. You need someone to be your head of communications so that they can go represent you, read people's feedback on you, have a sense of how you're presenting yourself, and 24/7 be that Jiminy Cricket on your shoulder to tell you, hey, say this, don't say this, oh, this may be misconstrued, and that's a very human job. And that requires your trust in your communications officer to do that.
So good. I didn't think about trust, right? But trust is huge.
Trust is huge. Being interesting draws people into your door, but being trustworthy will hold you over to have a long-lasting, whether it's client relationship with someone or a personal relationship with someone. And I think those things can never be disrupted by AI. Because don't forget, AI is made by human for human. Ultimately, it's all about human. Everything in this world right now is made for human beings. It's for us to consume and use. And so nothing is more important than to understand human well and love and serve human beings well.
So going on to what you just said, so as human beings in this AI revolution, how do we thrive? How do we really thrive?
I think it is to go that extra mile and do the difficult things. Actually, a lot of these apps that are very, very successful, it started with a founder realizing a common gap or a common problem that people have. Like, how did Uber start? It's because so many people end up just standing on the streets waiting for a taxi, and they're not coming, and you're just wasting your time. And when it's snowing and it's 20 degrees Fahrenheit outside, you don't want to be standing on the street waiting for a car. So Uber says, you know what? I'll make this a wonderful experience for you, and it can be seamless for you to solve this problem in your life. It starts by understanding a human problem and a gap, and you fill it in. And so I think that for us to thrive, we need to go that extra mile to understand what other people's wants and needs are, and we serve them, whether it's commercially for commercial results or altruistically to just love and serve someone who is in need. And a lot of nonprofits are doing wonderful work there. Ultimately, it's understanding what people want in a hyper turbocharged way. That's gonna allow us to thrive, whether we're giving or we're receiving.
Is there industries that you think we could thrive better in? Are there industries like we talked about, if we're saying PR or publicity or entertainment, actors, musicians, are there other industries that you're seeing where AI is really not coming into it as much, because there's so many more personal relationships?
Well, right now, AI is the most disruptive in areas like customer support, targeted sales, even basic levels of legal research, right? Things that are repetitive that requires a lot of data.
Customer service is huge, yep.
Yeah, a lot of kind of data compilation, and because AI can recognize patterns better than we can. However, we can draw on things that are not on paper and on data way better than AI can. So I think that the ways for us to thrive, first of all, is everyone needs to learn how to use AI. We all need to learn it. And I didn't say that. Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, said that. We all need to learn how to use AI well. How do we start? There's this thing called a prompt, which is now what is needed. A prompt is just to ask the AI bot or the AI box the right question so that it can generate the answer that you need. Now, if you ask a simple general question, it will give you a simple general answer. If you ask a smart, targeted, specific question, it will give you a very detailed answer that is customized to what you need. And so we need to be people who ask great questions. Jesus asked great questions. That's how he evangelized and influenced people. He didn't just slam facts at people and tell you to follow me, right? He asked wonderful questions to draw and activate out people's thoughts and minds and everything they want. They figure it out themselves without even knowing it. And that's the skill of asking the right questions. And how do we become people who ask right questions? It's actually really hard. We actually have to be very hyper aware of context, people, history, all that stuff we mentioned, right? We have to actively care about what people are thinking so that we know and almost anticipate what they're gonna need and want so that we can ask the questions to activate that. So I think we should all learn AI, learn how to use it, learn the tools out there, be more equipped as a human, care more about humans so that we can ask the right questions at the right time. And that's when AI can really help us.
So if you haven't used AI, where do you start?
So there are tools like
what are tools
ChatGPT.
you like? Like we know ChatGPT.
So I use Perplexity. So I mean, I'm not advocating or salesing for any company right now, but for example, Perplexity is a great version, kind of like ChatGPT, where it's like Google. You just talk to it, ask it questions, it can generate answers for you. There are, apps like Bolt, that creates prototype for you if you want to just test out a concept. There are so many academies online that teach you, what AI does, and you can just read about it. There are great thought leaders that were founders of, Google, Llama, etc., that will teach AI 101, like AI for dummies, AI beginners. You can listen to it, and they're all free on YouTube. Maybe with a few ads, but if you want to pay, $14 a month, then ad-free. Isn't it great? I think we should just start with understanding how it translates into human language and learn how to use it properly.
Okay, so I think a lot of people here, when you talk about networking and personal branding, and we talked about influencers a little bit, how can they thrive? How can they use AI in networking and personal branding to grow their businesses?
So a while ago, there was a very influential woman that wanted to do a Zoom with me, and I thought, okay, why? But sure, let's do a call. And what surprised me about her was that when we were on a Zoom, she read and almost memorized everything about me, like the bio you just read. She looked at me on Zoom, and she almost knew, oh, you graduated that year when Steve Jobs gave your commencement speech. I was like, what? Like, first of all, I didn't think I was important enough for her to want to even read about me. But when someone actually cares enough, or you think that they care enough to know the details of your life, it's very flattering. It dignifies you. It makes you want to do business with them. It makes you want to give them attention. It makes you want to say yes to whatever they ask of you. And I learned something that day, is that this woman did research on me. And later I learned she didn't do it. Her assistant did it. And she just spent 5 minutes reading my bio before we got on the Zoom. But I was sold. I was ready to say yes to whatever she wanted me to do for her. Now, how can AI do things for us? AI is just a wonderful assistant to help you do your homework. So there's no excuse next time you talk to someone for you to say, who are you again? What did you do? Like, just go online and Google them. Most people will have an online footprint, most. And if this is someone that you've actually met, you can just text someone who's a mutual friend and say, can you remind me again? What does that person do? Da, da, da. AI helps you find context, compile it, put it in a very easily readable manner. It saves you time, and it prepares you to be someone who's prepared to interact with someone with respect. And that is huge when someone knows about you and wants to know you. And you don't have to spend hours to do research, because who has that kind of time, right? You can just spend minutes, and that's what AI will help you do. But you have to want to do it first. AI can only assist you. You have to initiate all these actions.
That's so good. You mentioned the Steve Jobs. It did make you feel good, though, right? That he's like, you graduated the year he spoke.
Yeah, but she's smart. She saw, graduated Stanford 2005, bam. Steve Jobs, okay, let me say something that will definitely tick her heart, because she knew that there was an emotional, there would be an emotional spot in my heart for that, and immediately it formed a connection between us.
It's a great example.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else that I didn't ask you that you would like to talk about?
I think we've actually
I've missed, or
I don't think you've missed anything, because you're brilliant, and I think we've chatted about most of the spots. But I would actually love to ask you back after we talked about all this. Do you feel more or less worried about AI after our 45-minute chat?
I learned that I need to educate myself more, for sure. And I have to be the smartest in the room in any field. So I feel like the education side, I think, as humans right now in this AI revolution, is we really need to educate ourselves and feel like how we can be different. I mean, and nobody can take our personal relationships that we have, and a computer can't replace that. So really looking at the angles of how can I use AI to save me time, because now I don't have to spend 10 hours researching something. It comes in a couple minutes to me. But helping with those, how do I use the relationships I have, and then how do I use these AI tools to make my life easier and save time.
So I hope you feel better about it.
I do, I feel better.
That's awesome. And I hope we all do that. And not, I do have a feeling that a lot of people are very worried because they keep thinking about the Terminator and that scenario when computers take over and everything humans want, we're no longer in control. Like humans program these things into software and hardware. So for us, our ultimate foe and friend is still a human being. That has not changed. AI is just something that turbocharges it. But AI at its best can really serve the underserved and can free up so much of our time constraints. Can you just think about the days when we did not have Netflix, when we have to go and pay $20 to go to a cinema to watch a film and drive back home? Now it's all at our fingertips at what one button's press, right? And at a cost that is a fraction of what we used to pay to access cinema. That's just one example of many. I hope we can all find ways to be encouraged and enhanced in our lives by AI.
It's really encouraging. Thanks.
Thank you,
You're the
Esther.
best.
Oh, well, we have 2 minutes, yeah. Hi.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Can you share some thoughts on the ethical concerns around IP? Like if I go in to have it write something or generate an image and then I use it, is that my IP or is it somebody else's?
I'm actually not an expert with IP. Esther might be more of an IP expert because of her publishing background.
It depends what the IP is you're asking, but for a book, let's say if it's in publishing and you write a story or a book, you own that IP because you wrote it. So you copyright the book, it's in your name, it's your thoughts, it's your ideas. But image, if you're saying like what you take a AI generated image, I don't think you own it.
Like if you write something and you put it in the AI,
so
it makes
in
it better?
books, what we do is we could actually put the manuscript through a software system that shows if it was AI generated, and publishers will not accept your manuscript. So you literally have to. I mean, if you're using AI, we can pretty much tell, and the New York Times and others they're totally against that. So in that case, I mean, but there are books of our authors that you'll see a Cliff Notes version or a different version come up all the time, and it's AI generated. And it's really just stealing the IP of the author, and it's one of the things we're trying to fight against right now, that the author gets paid for it, or the musician. You see this in music happening all the time, or the songwriter. But it's very hard to stop right now, and so we're trying to be on the forefront of getting these authors or these creators paid correctly because it is their IP.
Because it is such a new technology, generative AI, right? Generating original content. Lawmakers, everything is in process right now. That's why we're actually seeing lawsuits left and right? Scarlett Johansson is suing someone who used her voice. Like, these are ongoing things that I think lawmakers and practitioners in private sector, they're all working it out. So it's a very valid question. And I think laws are being written. They're not black and white yet because the technology is still unraveling itself. Thank you.